All right, everybody, it is 11 a.m. And cool, you can see my stuff. It's up on the screen. And today, awesome. I don't have to present. I like presenting, but so there's a couple of things I just want to say for the context of the exercise we're doing. Like, first of all, just look around the room. Incredible attrition, right? and public speaking is scary for the vast majority of people. And then when they've actually studied public speaking, like one study, I don't know what study this was, maybe it's just like one of these anecdotes that somebody made up, because 72.3% of all studies and statistics are made up on the spot, including that one. And but you know, I heard this one thing that when they measure people's fear of the top things they fear, you know, like death is one, public speaking is another. I can't remember the third one, but public speaking for some people is scarier than death. And so first, hey, good for you guys for just showing up. Second, why? Why is public speaking scary? You know, because we are putting ourselves in front of others, and we become a target. You have a big bullseye for all of the crap that human minds can produce, whether it's praise or criticism, right? You are on the spot. And it's also kind of like you're on the spot, and there is, you know, it's like the radio show. You can't have dead air. And so if like you hit a spot where you're like, everybody's waiting for you. They're waiting for you. What are you going to come up with next? And so that could be a little bit scary. But so just you know, first of all, just to acknowledge the fear is the best way to deal with fear. Okay, fear, no big deal. And then secondly, you know, when you're, you know, it's a good thing to become comfortable with, or to become comfortable with the fear and do it anyhow, right? Because you're going to need that skill in life. And so some of the things that are helpful for public speaking, and just like totally, you know, not coding, but just life stuff here, is, you know, being able to interact with your audience. And so if you don't know what to say, you can say, okay, I ran out of things to say. What do you guys think? Or ask them questions. You know, so like a lot of times I'll have people in other classes, you know, interact with each other or write down what you've already learned. And so that gives you a break. Obviously, you're not going to be able to do that today. I'll just say, okay, we're done. Let's go with the next person. Or, you know, if you run out of things to say, no big deal. But whatever. So public speaking, that's just one thing. And then the second thing is many minds are better than one. And so when you're, you know, doing stuff in the real world, collaborating, working with people, get feedback from people, how do I make this better? And so that is going to make it better when you have more minds. And that's like team programming is really, you know, I don't know how popular it is in industry, but I hear that that's a good thing that industry is using more. And like two people looking, you've done that. You've programmed with your friend, and one of you will be stuck and the other has a solution. And then the same thing happens, but in reverse a couple of minutes later. And the other person's like, no, like that. And you're like, oh, cool, right? Because you all have different pieces of knowledge. So that's the other thing. It's just like, you know, how can we improve this in getting everybody's feedback? So those are just like two of my thoughts. A little bit of housekeeping is Eunice, who's been in our class, just in here hanging out as an assistant because he was at the summer boot camp. He's going to Germany for a month, so you won't see him in here until like December 1st or something like that. He has family in Germany and his wife's German, so they're going over there for a month. So I just want to give you an update of, you know, what's going on with Eunice when you're like, what happened to Eunice? All right, so that said, I've got WebStorm here and I have Corey's code. And Corey, you want to come up and just kind of, you know, say, hey, this is kind of what I did and check this out, and then just share your love. No, yeah, come on up. You're running the machine. Yeah, and that's the third thing is we're having student presentations today. So one thing that's helpful is you hold down Command, and the scroll wheel will scroll you in and out, so you can zoom in and out on code.
Well, there's not too much to look at in the code. It's more of a description of why I did what I did.
Oh, cool. Well, whatever.
Is it okay if I use the web browser?
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, that's kind of the first thing I wanted to get to.
Huh?
Actually, that's the first thing I kind of wanted to pull up just so it's easy to switch between it.
Yeah. Do you work Mac?
Nope.
I would say so. Just Command Tab. If you want me to drive and you just tell me where to go.
Why not?
Because then it's foreign environment. Switch places with me. You can get on that one. All right. You want a web browser?
Yes. Google Developers Console.
Cool. And do you need to be logged in as you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe if you made this the midterm, more people would show up.
And well, that's one more thing that to add is, there's a aspect of there's a lackadaisical aspect, or just a more casual aspect to this class. And I don't really care. I don't really care about grades. I didn't care about grades when I was a student. And I wanted to get A's, but like grades don't matter in life. They don't. And they absolutely matter. When you're a student, okay, they matter. But what I'm trying to say is you get into the real world, there aren't grades. There aren't grades in the real world. And it's weird because you're conditioned your entire life that it's about, like, let me get this mark. There are no grades in life. It's like, what do you want to do? And are you able to pay rent? That's it, And so you want to do this, let's do it. And this is going to help you pay rent when you learn it. But, so it's I don't want to force people, man. And
Okay.
it's just like, learn it. All right, let's go.
We can go back to the code now.
Okay.
The topic that I picked to improve upon in Todd's code was security. Because I noticed that when he was doing his passwords, he was just saving the passwords as plain text in his data store. This is bad practice because you always have to have somebody able to access the database, so they're going to be able to see what's in it, or if your data ever gets stolen. If you just have the plain text password, right there next to the username, you just gave away everybody's information. If they use it on other websites, they're screwed. So what you would do with this is instead you would run the password that they give you through a hash function and save that into your database so that it's somewhat encrypted. But just running it through a simple hash is not enough. The reason being, if you don't do anything to the password and then run it through the hash and save that, if anybody has the same password as anybody else, you're going to get the same results saved in the database. To work around this, you can add what they call a salt to the string when you're running it through the hash. The salt is a randomly generated string. You run it through the hash and it comes out with your encrypted password, and even if somebody else puts in the same password, if they have a different salt added to theirs, they're going to get a different encrypted string. You have to save this salt with the password so that you can remember what you did to get that encrypted string. So that would need to be saved in the database as well.
So you do that just in a separate property?
Right.
Okay.
You can save it as a separate entry, or sometimes they even save it with the encrypted string.
Just
Kinda
like
the first section of it is the hash, or the salt, and then the second
that'd
part
probably
of
be
it
the
is
better way.
Yeah.
And then you can just pull that out, separate it with a pipe. I think I saw Daniel do that at one point.
Another improvement upon that is you don't want your hash function to be very fast. You want it to be nice and slow. If someone is trying to log into a server and it takes 1 second to authenticate, they're not going to notice. But if it's someone trying to auto test keys, if you're running at 0.0001 seconds per try, you can get tens of thousands of entries in 1 second. Whereas if you increase that time to 1 second, that's tens of thousands of seconds. So I was going to try to implement this all with just the crypto SHA library, but then I found that somebody did a library for passwords in specific using, I think it was called bcrypt.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to use that instead. So now we can look at the code.
And you used bcrypt?
Yeah, I think that's what it's called.
I really liked everything you just said. And I thought halfway through you saying it that I should make notes. Would there be anything else that I'd add to those notes? There was something else that you said.
When we look at the Google Developer tab, we'll kind of review a little bit of it.
Okay, so where are we going?
All right, here.
Right here?
So this is the package that I used, bcrypt.
Cool.
It's actually like an unofficial Golang package even.
Yeah. And where I used it, the first use is when we create the user, they're going to give us a password. There's a function in bcrypt where you take the password that they give you, and it'll return the hash string that has a bunch of properties with it, including the salt and whatnot. So I saved that in the database instead of the plain text password. And then when you're trying to log in, Bcrypt has a function where they take the password that's given by the user and the encrypted password that it already gave you previously. You run it together in this function, and it'll give you an error if it didn't line up, or it'll give you nil if it was correct. So if it returns nil, then the authentication was legit, and it lets you go through. So I wanted to show the developer tab to show what the actual keys look like. And then storage.
Oh, you got it. Yeah.
So when I was creating users and putting in passwords, this is the generated string. How do you do this, Emily?
Command and then scroll. There you go.
This is the generated string that it gives you. It uses the dollar symbol to parse off the first two parts. I think that first part is to let you know which method they used in the function, because in the future, if they come up with a better method, if they want to implement it, you need to be able to look at passwords and say, hey, this one hasn't been updated since we did this new method. So you still need to be able to authenticate them.
So that'd be a backwards compatibility thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The next number is, they call it the cost. This one, there's a technique called, I think it's key stretching, where they'll run the hash over and over to extend how long the hash function will take. So this is going back to saying you want your hash function to be nice and slow. The reason they save a number here is this will tell how many times they want to do it. I think it's a base 2 number, so it's like 2 to the 10 times. But as hardware gets better and better, it's going to speed up naturally. So you need to be able to increase the cost to kind of offset that and say, hey, slow it back down.
And the reason you do that is to prevent brute force.
Yes. You're making the attempts take longer. It's not noticeable for a person actually trying to just log into their account, but if someone's trying to run as many attempts as possible, it's going to slow them down.
Yeah, okay.
But again, you need to know how many times you ran it for this particular password, because in the future, if you were to increase that cost, you need to know that, hey, this password hasn't been updated yet. The next section of it is the salt string. I think it's like the first 22 characters or so. This is what they add to the password that's given. They run it through the hash function, and the remaining string is what they're checking against. So once they put the salt and the original password into the function, they'll check it against this second part of the string. If they match, you're logged in.
That's totally awesome. Very cool. That's it?
Yep, that's
Anybody
it.
have any questions? That was great. Good job. Thanks, Corey. All right, let's add this to the notes. Bcrypt. And the notes were right here.
Yeah, I think the Golang.org/x things are unofficial packages, whether that means they're experimental still,
Yeah.
so not tested well enough to go into the official stuff, or maybe possibly be for another project like the App Engine. So it doesn't necessarily go in there, but it's something that's kind of made by Google anyway.
All right, yeah. Yeah, in standard library. Okay. Would anybody add any other notes to everything he just said there, just to make sure we sort of capture? You guys read those? It's really small.
Oh, there was one other thing that they say you can do to add extra security, and that's to have a secondary salt that's website wide. So it would be in your Go code. They would add that to the salt that's saved with the password, and then add that to the original password. So even if the data was taken from the database, they would have the salt and the key that they need to check against, but they wouldn't necessarily know what your other salt was. Sometimes they call it a pepper.
Yeah, because the per password salt is saved with the password. So if they get the password, they've got it. But if you got one that's just kind of unique to the website, that's not saved with the password. So they'd have to have your code as well as the
And that pepper won't replace the salt. You still need everyone to have their own salt, or else you get back to the problem of you enter a password and it comes up with the same hash each time.
You know, we're getting to this point that I think we need to just sit down and make a web language that's nothing but ingredients.
And then you put your paprika in.
I think I've heard that some websites that need incredible security will do the encryption on the JavaScript side, and then that way you don't even have anything. The servers never sees anything that's unencrypted.
So the entire purpose of using a salt is if we had two passwords that were the same, they would have the same hash, and if somebody was looking at all those in the database and they had that one password that turned into the hash, they would say, well, that person now over here also has my same password. So that's like a pretty low probability thing, but that's the reason of having the salt. Or somebody could then try the 1,000 most common passwords against your website. And you know, those would get stored in. They got access somehow to your back end. Those 1,000 got stored in, and they could say, okay, when I use this password here, I get that hash. And look, here are all those other people with the same hash, right? And so that's the password they have. We now can break into their account and try that same password other places if they're using the same username and password. And but when we put the salt in, you know, it won't allow that because every password is going to have something crazy random put in with it, which gives it a completely different salt. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. And then the pepper part, the second salt, is just one unique thing which gets thrown into the hash, which is unique to all of the passwords, and that's not stored with the hash. So we always know that, but you know, so if somebody was somehow to sort of figure out the password and the hash, they wouldn't know what is the password that was hashed with that salt unique to that password. They wouldn't know the salt that was unique to the whole website. So it's like two salts going into the hash to sort of screw up the results even more. And then slowing it down, that's just like so like that antithetical, right? Like that's against, like, is that the right word, antithetical?
It's unintuitive.
Yeah, it's so unintuitive. Like, what? I want to slow it down? All right, that was really great. I really liked that presentation. It was a really good one. Let's put the code in here so we could reference Corey's code, and I will log you out. Speaking of security.
Yep, that was a good overview of security.
That was great. And it's in code improvement. Cool. Who would like to go next? Come on up, Alan. So this is Corey. We know that. Here's Alan. What's the subject? And what's the repo?
My Felix Fissus.
I think
You started me, I think.
yeah, I think I started you. Cool, and I'm not following many people.
Hey, there it is. Right there up top.
Oh, cool. Unfollow. No, that's not what I want to click.
Web. Fall 15 web.
Cool.
Yeah. Twitter clone.
Cool.
Okay, I can take over from
All right,
Mac.
you good with Mac?
Yeah,
Good.
I'm good with the mouse.
Run it.
Because everything's going to be up there. I can't run it. It broke on me.
Oh, I need to
Where'd the
bring
rest
it
of
in.
your thing
Let me
go?
let me
Yeah.
get the code down for you. Sorry. And this is my lame way of doing it, but it's quick.
Hey, as long as it's fast.
And that's going to come into documents, and I'm looking for F15. It's going to come into temp. And there we go. Which one? Twitter clone.
Yeah.
What do you want me to open, or you got it?
I can. It's just point and click, so I think I can manage that from there. So, I wish I'd thought about doing the password vent. I think it would have been a lot less of a headache. So, a bad habit of mine, well, good/bad habit of mine is that I like logging everything I'm doing. So this is my today's work. So first off, you had a typo.
Yeah. Very likely.
I did find that one.
I
So,
misspelled session data.
Yep.
Awesome.
so I decided I was going to try to make the tweet part because I had a good idea, and we've done it before with the Reddit clone. You know, I thought it wouldn't be so bad. Well, I ran into a couple of issues with it. So first off, I thought I'd start with a bang. So tweets are toots in this clone. So you're going to toot out to the web. I did run into an issue with serve template, which is a function.
I laughed at
Todd
that
made.
the first time, by the way, just for the record.
Yeah. I ran into an issue. Todd's function serve template. Oh, how do I zoom out?
Here, it's that command, and then just scroll.
Okay.
There you go.
I use a touchpad. And that was over in template. So my idea was that I wanted to, in some way, get this list of toots into the file. Well, that broke everything. I'm getting server 500 errors right now, and I'm not completely sure why. And I did that about 3 minutes ago. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Cool. So a little bit of review. Caught a spelling error. That's awesome. And started making global messages. And so that's going to be a data structure. Did that end up over
That is
in model?
in model. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got a toot, and it's going to have the username and the message. So that's definitely something that's coming, right? Like, how do we keep track of all the tweets from somebody? So that seems like a pretty good way to do it. And this would be the key.
Yeah.
And that would just be their thing. And then we might also want to put something else in here, like the time, right? Like the time is going to be something that we'll want to know when they did it.
Whether you display it or not, it'll be useful for ordering it. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's drop that in. Whoa. Sometimes my mouse does that. I think I need to get like the more expensive mouse. So let's put that in. That's a cool deal right there. And we'd probably also add into this. Also add in time of tweet, and then what else might we add in?
Probably email. It occurs to me usernames aren't actually strictly unique.
Yeah, right. So we need to make usernames unique. Make username unique within our site, if that's what we're using as the key. I think they are, because that's our key in the. I think they are unique. That's our key in the other one. They'd have to be, but I didn't check that.
I thought it was email that you used as key. Emails have to be unique.
No, it was.
It is usernames? Okay.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, that's what I kind of found out. It's like we're kind of giving the username to everyone. Once, like, if we create the starting, what you did with the functionality, like where we make one, well, we can always tell. Like someone like that's trying to find out, they can find out all of the usernames on your table with using that because it's right there. You're giving it to them, kind of thing. So, and it's fine like that, but you have to really protect your password, like for that. Cause
they got half of the deal, right?
Because it's
For logging in.
Yeah, because it's always
Yeah.
going to be there.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Well, so when you log in at so Twitter, you got your username. Mine's @Todd_McLeod, right? And then how do you log in at Twitter? Is it your email?
You know what?
I think it's your email.
Yeah, a lot of places though are both email or username.
But they do
Right.
like verification beforehand, right? With like that type of stuff, like they like send you like email to your
When you create the account, yeah, to make sure you're authentic.
App Engine does have an email system.
That's what I was
Which
looking up.
we should do a day. I think we're going to do a day.
Yeah.
It was during the summer boot camps.
Yeah. We will look at the email system.
You're going to glance at my email code for the Twitter club.
That's like day 12, and we're on week 10, so that's coming up soon.
Yeah, very soon.
I got to finish out this Twitter thing, get it polished off, and then we can move forward with new concepts. So cool. And then why would so just kind of exploring that a little bit right there. Why would this be given an issue right here? Why would that start giving 500 if we we changed the data. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Why would we get a 500 not found? I'm not sure why you get a 500 not found. I'm not sure what happens if you pass in the wrong data.
That's internal server.
Yeah, internal server error. So that makes sense.
Only thing I can think of is the old pages are still in Memcache without the extra bit of information.
Yes, you would have to make sure you invalidate the old page when a new thing comes in.
Oh. Data is being used here, and that's for the logged in one. It's not being used in the Memcache ones, but yeah, interesting. All right, thank you very much, Alan. Who would like to come up and show something?
I'll go.
Awesome, I'm so excited. And is it on GitHub?
Yeah.
All right, where do I go?
Schwartz.
Here, you want to do it? Do you do a Mac? Or you want me to do it? So tell me what to type in.
H-E-R-R.
H-E-R-R.
S-C-H.
S-E-H?
S-C-H. W-A-R-T-Z.
W-A-R-T-Z. Sweet. So forgive me if like I sometimes hear things weird. I've got a little hearing loss. And I'm going to, which one?
Advanced Web.
Advanced Web. There we
Probably
go.
Advanced Web, yeah.
That would probably be it. Let's get at that and bring it down. Download zip.
There you go.
Show Finder. And copy that over to documents. I should put that in downloads.
Probably just do it in GitHub. But
Advanced Web. That's cool. And code review. Sweet.
yeah.
All right. What would you like? You want to do it, or you want me to drive and you just talk?
I need. What do I need? I'll need API.go.
Okay.
I guess you could look at the model.
Okay.
Mine's exactly the same as Alan's, basically.
Oh, cool.
But yeah, date would be a great idea because I noticed when you post the messages,
Yeah.
they come in out of order.
They did it work though. That's good.
It's a very hacky solution. It's I'm glad that Corey did some security because mine code actually makes the site much less secure.
You want me to do it, or you?
I'll
You do it? Okay.
All right. Where are they? Yeah.
And
So
if you move to the bottom, it'll keep scrolling down because you're zoomed in on part of the screen right now. There you go.
All right. So basically, just two simple functions here. I have post and get posts, and posts just both of these are called from Ajax on in JavaScript. I think it's in headers, footers, HTML. That's where I wrote that. We'll look at that. Anyway, so they call that, and this is like the first one here for post. It's like the same exact code as for creating a user, except for I changed the model to the post model, and I put in the username in the post.
Yeah, so this would be the thing where you're creating a user, you're checking, does that username already exist in the database, and then displaying the result. Here you're just checking, are there new posts, or show me the new post that just got posted and put it on the page.
Well, no, well, it's basically just saying, like, it's getting the post information, saying make a new key,
Okay.
and put it into posts here in the, I guess that's the kind, right? All right.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm not used to NoSQL at all.
I know, it's totally different. You start talking about it.
Super weird.
I'm fairly certain that the App Engine data store is also using different terms than most NoSQL databases anyway, too.
Fantastic. All right, yeah, and
just
then
confuse people.
it just puts the key in there, and
It's kind of cool. We're getting the concept. So 136 or 138, you create a post, and just to use the terminology, and this is still something I'm learning, but 136 through 38, right? We are creating a variable named post, and that's the identifier, and it is of type post, and we're using struct literal to do that. Would that be the way you'd say that? That's a struct literal, that stuff after the type?
Yes.
It's just like the literal values, right? Here are the literal values, and it's a struct. And that would be different than, another way you could do that would be to use var. So you could say var post post, and then that creates a variable post of type post. And then you could say post.username equals, right? And the var would set it to the 0 value, so username of post would be empty string. And you could do post, the variable name, dot username, and set it to value, and post dot post. There's a lot of posts going on in there.
Maybe
Right.
some different names
Would be the with
be
a
a good
field.
idea.
And are the username and post, are those fields or properties? What are they? What is the exact?
I think they're properties.
Because I was hitting that last night. I'm like, oh crap, what's the exact? And I never looked it up. I think it is a property.
Yeah, I think they're
Yeah.
properties because that's what you query on.
Yeah.
Like I do down here. And yeah, I was trying to get it to return like a JSON object,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just returning a bunch of trash. So I just ended up returning a string here, I'm pretty sure.
And your F149 there, the return that you're doing there, you've got the form value post created by.
Oh, yeah, that's
Just to be consumed by. How's that consumed? Over
that was
on-
just a test, basically.
that was a test,
That was
okay.
just a test to see if it was like doing something.
Okay, you're just checking it, some logging, and then getting the post, get a new context, and then do a new query, and then run that query, and interesting loop.
Yeah, this is some code I found in like the docs, basically. It's to run the query, just like it just makes like a post that you're using, and then I'm just throwing away the value basically because all I want is the post data. So I'm just getting the username and the post and returning it as a string, or I'm returning them as strings as they're coming in, and they're delimited by forward slashes. Like I said, I wanted to return a JSON object, but whenever I did, it wasn't working. So I just
Blew up.
returned this string, and we'll see where that's going. Templates. Put it in here. I did use jQuery. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
I used 2.1 though, so we're still screwing over the IE8 people.
Oh, good.
So I'm sure
That makes me
happy.
happier.
All right, good. Yeah, this is why it's horribly insecure. This is where the username is coming from. Literally, I'm setting it to the class of the button, and then I'm getting that as an attribute and sending that as the username.
Good for you.
So yeah, you could post as whoever you want really on the site if you know the slightest bit of HTML.
Yeah. So alternately, instead of having a button, you can use a hidden input type hidden, and that's solely for adding in additional data into.
Well, I think it would be best to just get it from the context on the
It
server.
would be best, yes, from the server's
Yeah.
context.
I was just
but-
too lazy to look up how to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, input
If you
type
want the
hidden is
honest
usually used
answer.
for like IDs, for like a form ID. Like when you sign up on Eventbrite for an event, they'll have the 60 seconds until the form expires. It's probably because they threw a UID into a hidden input. They get sent with it. So if it gets sent after the time runs out, they can just say, oh, this UID is no longer valid.
That was actually what I was expecting to get to once, everything was working, was to put a post. Since you have the context on the page anyways, just make a hidden form.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just got like two little Ajax here's. This one's when you click the button, it sends it to the method that I made. This is in the URLs, obviously. And it sends it the username.
Whoa, dude, that's jQuery Ajax.
Yeah.
It's only like two things. It's a dollar symbol and Ajax.
Yeah, I know.
As opposed to
That's
three
why I
lines.
like it. It's very, very compact. Like,
That's
you can
fine.
make it even more compact than this. So it's like, yep, this is your data here. Username, post, cool. Success, do this. This is just testing stuff, basically.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
this first one's testing stuff. The second one is emptying the div where I'm putting the post so it doesn't duplicate. And then it's calling this one, which is get post, which is also called onload. So when you post, it calls it.
Yeah.
So that it displays your new post, and also when you load the window, it loads it so that you can see the post. And yeah, it's getting the post basically, and it's getting the post data, splitting on those the delimiter of /,
Yeah.
and then appending them all.
Cool.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. If you want to look at it
Yeah, that's
on the
great.
site.
See it run? I think that we might have like dependency issues, and so I think it's just better just look at the code. I mean, is it
Well,
already?
no, it's
It's
deployed.
on deployed. Let's see it, man.
All right.
Let's
How do
see.
I zoom out?
Yeah, just there you go. Command tab. Sweet.
What did I call it?
That makes more sense.
Dot.
The dot.
I like the way you spelled it.
There we go. Okay. Gotta log in. Otherwise, it doesn't play nice. What was my name? Must have been wrong.
Yeah.
Here, I'll create an account. There we go. Yeah, okay. There we go. Okay, so if I put in a post like,
I like how your button only shows up when you're logged in.
that's just a bug. Before, it was like the whole thing was supposed to not show if you're not logged in,
Yeah.
which worked, but I changed something very slightly, and then it did,
know, it's
but the button
crazy.
was messed up. I don't know. It's whatever. It's web. Hopefully works.
Sweet.
But see, it put it in the middle.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to get the query to order by
Sequence.
date and save the date. Yeah, so it's sequential.
Very nice. Good job. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I think Go made the timing bit easy because it allows the Go time object as actually part of the data store. It's a valid field type. So you don't have to format your time or anything like you do with a lot of other databases. You can just put in the time directly. Time.now gets you the current time. So
Were there any other takeaways that you guys would add from, or what was that under API? We had post, and just looking in here if there's anything that we should add into the notes, like, oh, that was really good. The interesting query, that was something that kind of stood out to me, the syntax on that. Would there be another way to do that? And this isn't a criticism of Tim, this was actually from the docs, but that looks wonky.
So I think the way that it's being doing there is so you can have the T as being in the scope of the for loop. So in this case, it doesn't matter so much. You could just pull T up to the next line up and just say for, and have your infinite loop same as that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, so
you need the variable in
that
the
contains scope. So this is a, we could have had a for like this, right? And but then T is not doing anything because when we have this right here, we're basically running a query, right? Let's get rid of that. We're running a query and putting it to T, and then I think the way this works is that when you get that, then you go T next, T next, T next, and so you just loop over. And I thought we're supposed to have a done, so that's it right there, right?
Yep.
And then we break out, right? And so doing it like this. Well, now T, the scope of T is block level, so it's this whole function, and so maybe you don't want that to be block level scope. That you want to bring your scope down more narrow, and so to bring it down more narrow, you can put it right here. And when you look at like what is the definition for a for loop in Go, you have your initializer, you have your condition, which is right here, and then you have your post. And so basically, it's saying initialize this. Who cares about a condition? Who cares about a post, right? And I guess when you don't care about a condition, would that just always be true?
Yeah.
That's
if you skip the condition,
It's just
for
always
in
true.
most programming languages, it means
just always true. And that's interesting though, because a lot of times if you don't mention a bool, it's a false, right? Like you don't specifically set it. Alternatively, you could have done this, but I guess you don't need that, and it doesn't seem to like it anyhow.
True capitalized.
Is true capitalized for bool? I thought it was lowercase.
It could be lowercase.
Like x : equal true.
In the docs, this was like an example of filtering. So like afterwards, there was like a dot filter and then a property to filter by. So I think
Yeah.
that's probably one of the other reasons. Because there's also like something that you could just use to get all, which I probably should have used, but
I think the get all returns a string of keys, so you would still have to do the.
Get alls takes in a pointer to a slice, which will fill out the values. So it returns this slice of keys, but it also takes the pointer
there's
to the
also like a
slice.
query equivalent to getting all.
So yeah, get all would be useful if you want to use JSON, because then you've got a slice of structs, which that can be put for JSON just fine.
Yeah, that would
The JSON library does not like it when you put things into it one at a time. It wants all the data at once. Which is probably where your error is from, my guess.
It wasn't giving me an error, it was just giving me a bunch of bytes. It wasn't an actual object. I could still get it as a string.
Who's next? And I know you guys are like working the numbers here and realizing that with 35 minutes left, we're not going to do everybody. But I'd really love to hear from Jenny. Awesome. You need an invitation? Come on up. It's sweet. We won't. It's not video. It's just screen. Click follow. Not following you yet. There you go. You want me to download it and put it into WebStorm for you?
That's okay, I can
Would you
just
like
do it
right
from
here?
here.
Cool.
So I basically did the same thing as Corey, but not nearly so well. So I just used the MD5 library to hash the password. So in create user, we just hash the password and then pass that in as a string into the database. And then when we're logging in, then we hash it
One
again.
sec. So hold down
check.
Command and do the scroll wheel.
It's not working. Oh, there we go.
There you go.
So then when we're checking it, we also have to hash it, and then we check it against what they passed in, or what's in the database.
All right. So show us the first one where you hash it.
Right here.
Let me zoom in on that for everybody so I can see it. So here, we get MD5 new, and then write string, and we are writing to the H, right? Just kind of, I don't know, all this crypto stuff, like so much of this stuff is still relatively new to me, but
It's complex for a reason too, so.
like that's kind of interesting. Like, okay, we do a new MD5 and it gives us some sort of a object. Would that be the way you'd say
It's
that?
a writer.
So that's all it is a writer?
It's got its other methods as well, but
I think
it's
I
falling
think it
into.
actually returns a dot hash object,
Yeah, I believe so.
and then in it it's got a writer.
Yeah, so then you could write to it. And when you write to it, it executes that writer, right? However it implements that writer method, it executes it. And so part of that writer method, what it is doing is it's taking this and it's writing to that object. So almost writing to itself, that, you know, where it's stored, right? It's creating some new value or some sort of a hash. Was MD5 a hash?
Yeah.
Yeah, creating a new hash. And then, and down here, when you run sum, right, sum kind of like takes whatever's in there, and I have no idea why they call it sum. Why do they call it sum? And then it basically makes it ready to
It's the
show.
hash sum.
It's the hash sum. What's that mean? That's the value, right?
Yeah.
So where is it creating the value? Is it right
So
here?
Sum is probably where it's actually doing the work. It's probably just buffering all your writes.
Oh,
until it
into
gets to
there.
that point.
So right there.
Most likely.
I think
I'm not
nil
sure.
is where you can add in a sum. So if you were to add in a string right there instead of nil, that's where you would solve.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah, and then I was trying to like just take h.sum nil and cast it to string, and then it was giving me this weird error, like it wasn't UTF-8 encoded, and I was like, what the heck does that mean?
It's a big number.
Yeah,
It's a
so then
huge-
I had to
huge
go
number.
back to our other previous exercises and like, how did I use hash then? Because I know it worked then, and then you just have to do format.sprintf, I guess, for it to actually.
Yeah, the
Go
percent
to
X
string.
means it means write it as a hexadecimal number.
Yeah, percent hexadecimal. But that's interesting. You kind of turn into a string, and then you also got an error that. What was your error?
It was something about UTF-8 encoding.
Okay, UTF-8
Yeah, 'cause
encoding.
The sum gives back a slice of bytes, and UTF encoding's got those first like 2 bits, and each byte has
Yeah.
to follow the pattern. So if it's not following the pattern, then it's not. You can't convert it directly to a string. If it's not a UTF-8 text.
Hence my
It's
note.
awesome.
I was like, simple casting to string doesn't work.
And then how did you go look up the code? Because that's a baited question. Sorry. So when I have I don't know how to do something, and I remember there was some code sample that I saw at a training and I put that into my repo or something, or I had that in some other code I wrote 6 months ago and I know it's in a repo. So I think I've showed this before, but the way that I'll find code when I want to do it is github.com. And so like there's the summer boot camp, and then let's say I'm like, oh, how do I use OS.args? And you could search this whole repository. And so I could search for os.args, right? And then it brings up, like in that whole repository, here are all the places where I've used os.args. And okay, that's exactly what I wanted right there, right? Or I could open up the whole file and see a little bit more about it. So you could just also, like if you know somebody's a good programmer, you could just go search their repos for like MD5. How did they use MD5? So kind of cool. So that was sort of right here is we are hashing the password and then setting it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's cool. And then when they log in, you're just doing the same thing here where you're basically hashing the password and then you're getting that MD5 right here.
Mm-hmm. And then comparing that against what's
if it's not equal to what's stored in the database. Yeah. That's pretty cool. I think that's a good solution. If somebody hacks that, I say they deserve to have gotten it. That's complex enough. They were good enough to get the data and sell it to somebody on the black market. That's cool. I am comfortable with that. But if you want to, I think this is a good solution. And if you want to go black belt, 3rd degree, you could do it Corey style. But I'd say this is like
this was
definitely
pretty good for
brown
like 5
belt,
minutes.
brown belt, black belt. 5 minutes? That's awesome. So good job. You got anything else you want to add?
No, but I think if you do look in the actual documentation, it does show this. So you don't have to make my mistake and just try and cast it to string.
Yeah, kind of interesting. How would you go from a string to hexadecimal? But I guess it's a number? Is that right?
It's a slice of bytes.
Slice of bytes.
They're using a slice of bytes because it can't fit in an N64. It's more bytes than the N64, so they're using a slice of bytes instead. But it's designed to be read as one big huge number. So
you can also do I think there's a library encoding / hex.
Yeah.
Just throw it in there.
Yeah, encoding / hex it's got converter functions to and from hexadecimal for slice of bytes. May or may not be faster than sprintf depending on how they're implementing the reading the %hex out of that file, out of that string.
Yeah, it's there's some interesting things when you start to like understand how all the pieces fit together, then things start to click a little bit more, but I'm not quite there. Getting closer. Thanks so much, Jenny. You have anything else you want to share?
No, that was it.
No parties this weekend you want to tell people about? Or keggers at Jenny's in the mountains. Stereotype of college, sorry. All you guys do is code. There's no partying.
Was that your college lifestyle?
Yeah, I wasn't a big partier, like occasionally like hang out, have a couple of beers or whatever, go out and have a few drinks, but I was never like the frat boy. That wasn't my scene. I was more like I like to surf, and I don't know, school's a lot of work, so I actually worked pretty hard in school. I learned a whole lot about calculus and economics. All right, who's next? Who's next? Anybody? Let me just see this. How many people did not prepare a solution? And this game is called The Truth Will Save You. Because if you raise your hand, I won't call on you. Did not prepare a solution, did not prepare a solution, did not. All right, did not.
I know
That's cool, man.
what I do in 1 minute. But
The truth will save you. And so there are some people who didn't raise their hands. And of those who didn't raise their hands, who doesn't want to come up because they're afraid? Like they just have that anxiety in their belly, like, I don't want to go stand in front of people. Anybody like that? Raise your hand, the truth will save you. The truth will save you. This is where you save yourself from being called on. So if that, you don't want to come up, right? Because you're like, I don't like talking in front of people. All right, well. There's a few people then who are eligible for being called upon. You know who you are. Do you want to come up and show, or do you feel like, nah, I don't really think I have anything to add to the discussion. It'll just be more of the same. Raise your hand if you think what you got is just more of the same. We're eliminating possibilities here. I don't know if you're following my brilliant logic. as I eliminate the possibilities. This is basically a big switch right here, if, else, if. So cool. So that pretty much eliminates everybody.
I was wondering. I was kind of comparing this with like other like websites and stuff like that, and it's like
Good.
I was thinking like how can we like protect like the password, right? And so I was looking online, and it was like there's like certain ways that you can do it. Like you can actually get the IP address from from the client, and then also like say, oh, after a certain amount of times of accessing or trying to access this, we can like block them or something like that.
Yeah.
Or on the username or on the actual user, we can actually put that a field in there to actually like count how many times like someone tries to access it.
Yeah.
That'll predict against a lot of bots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So protecting against brute force attacks.
Yeah.
And somebody just randomly trying to get in, like trying common username password combinations.
Which we have all the usernames in this.
Unless they do a
on the
library.
website.
Right, and so now they just have to try the common passwords,
just
and
need
so
that.
pretty breakable,
Yeah.
pretty easily breakable.
Yeah.
And so another way you could add to that would be to, preventing brute force attacks. So that's a really good one. So one thing we saw with Corey is just slow it down, right, with your hash, and I don't know if it's taking 200 nanoseconds versus 4 nanoseconds.
Yeah,
Is that really going to
how much
the
does this
brute
slow
force
down?
person can just be like, fine, I'll just let my machine keep running.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to take me a year instead of a day to break somebody's account. But also, like, if the same request is coming too often from the same IP, so you could check that.
Yeah,
I mean-
request.source adder has got it.
Request dot,
Source adder, source ADDR.
that's in the docs.
Yeah.
So that's go doc net HTTP.
Yeah, if you
Request.
do the localhost, it returns like the IPv6 instead of like the IPv4, and it's like : 1 or something like that.
And you're saying, which one is
Type
it?
request.
Type request?
It's got
And then
a
right-
request adder as one of its fields. Or a source adder.
Oh, right here, remote adder allows HTTP servers and other software to record the network address that sent the request. So we could be looking at that and then just doing some sort of and where would we store that? If we're keeping track of what address is coming from, is making a request to come in,
If you do it that way.
where are we going to store those addresses? We need some counter, right? Like Todd 2, Todd 3, Todd 4, Todd 5, but instead of Todd, it's an IP address, right? And so it's counting how many times. And then where will we store that? We store that in the data store. We store it in Memcache. Do we store it, in SQL Server? Where do we store the counter?
Database is pretty common.
You think database? Oh, you've seen this in action?
Yeah, stuff like that. The previous project I worked on had it. It was just stored in the database.
Yeah.
And they put a date on there as to the last.
And then run some process in the database to dump everything every
Eventually put it out,
day.
Right? Because you don't want to, just because somebody logged into
You don't want to keep it forever.
In this case, Memcache would be almost ideal for this because
It's gonna-
Memcache does have its increment function, which you can set a default value to too.
Right.
So you can say default value of 0, increment by 1 every time. That way you just don't have to have any if statements or anything there.
Well, you can set a trigger in the database as well. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're trying to keep it off the server, that's not a
Yeah,
problem.
yeah. And the Memcache also, you can set a duration for everything too. So if you set the duration to be something like 20 minutes or whatever, then you don't have to worry about clearing out yourself. After 20 minutes, it'll go away.
Yeah, I like the Memcache idea. That's kind of what I was thinking because I don't know if I want to keep that stuff forever. And
Well, if you did the data store, what you would do is you would only log it every time they failed to log in. As soon as they log in, you clear their IP from the database.
yeah, so that'd be one thing is grabbing the IP address to protect brute force. And if you get too many requests coming from the same place, then you can block them. But if somebody who's a hacker is going to be spoofing their IP address when they send it in, right? You could do that.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, right? Like Shin's like, you want me to show you how? You got time after class? Let's have some fun. I was one time I think I showed the
I was saying you don't necessarily need to straight up block them. What you can do is every time they fail, it increments by 1, and the time it takes to process a login could just be some time times that. So the more attempts they do, it gets longer and longer.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they'll block themselves eventually.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So you don't even have to say after so many attempts.
Yeah, and if
Fail,
someone
just
is legitimately messing up, then they'll wait it out and then log in and it'll clear.
yeah. Yeah. And then you could also memcache, if you did a memcache, that would clear automatically after 20 minutes. Yeah, so just have some function that, first time it takes 1 second, next time 2 seconds, next time 4, next 8, next 16, next
Well,
32.
You could even do like 0.1 seconds so that a normal user would get like 10 attempts and they wouldn't even notice.
Yeah.
Because if it's a bot, they're going to go through 10 pretty quickly.
Yeah. That's cool. So we could check the IP address, and then what else can we do? We could to prevent brute force. What else can we do? For a certain user account, my bank does this. You mentioned 2 things though, right? You did IP address, and what was the other thing you mentioned? I just want to make sure I don't drop it.
Well, for each account, you have you like each time they try to access an account or account name, you can like say, oh, there's a login failure in this account, mark it off or something like that. That's what some some sites do.
Yeah, that's what my bank does. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So, and then you could also do limited login attempts per account for certain time periods, right?
Couldn't you just do authentication through like cell authentication?
Oh, dang it.
Yeah.
Cell authentication?
Yeah. Require the 2-step login where it sends the code text messages.
Oh yeah,
So regardless if they
two-step
have your
auth.
password, they can't even get it without
Yeah.
their phone.
Yeah, you have to use. That's what you meant by cell. Two-step auth. Yeah. Yeah. So here's the other deal. Store and memcache.
Should be hard to set up
So those are those 2.
You can use the email service.
Email
as
is
outside.
easy, send and then text.
Yeah, pretty much.
The text though, if you send an email to text, it's their provider.
Which you would have set prior.
So if you use the SMS, I believe App Engine's got an SMS package for messages, but I'm not sure. I think it requires some extra stuff to set up.
Or just get an authenticator. Just scan it with a QR code. Get the number that changes every 30 seconds. Try that.
So what else? What else do we need to do? Like, are there any other security things? So we did the password. We encrypted it, so when it's stored, the password's stored. We're preventing brute force. One other thing we saw at boot camp was package subtle. I don't remember, right? But so if you go, well, I'm already at GoDoc, and you search for subtle. Crypto subtle is a package. Implements functions that are also useful in cryptographic code but require careful thought to use correctly. You know you're going into dangerous territory when the Go docs are telling you that, right? But inside subtle here, there's a constant time. Like that's it. And so one way that people hack is to see what's the difference in time for the hash algorithm to run. I don't know, that gives them information. And this makes the time constant. So if you, again, you're like, well, how the hell would you ever use that, right? If you go to GitHub and Summer Bootcamp, and we look for subtle, you don't see any code samples. I thought that, so it was also called constant time. Is that what it was? Constant time. We'll just search for that. Constant time. Nothing. I thought Caleb used that,
I
but
think he mentioned it, but never actually ended up using
mentioned it,
it.
but never used it. So let's just see if we could find it at Caleb's site.
What about like authenticating the actual email beforehand? because right now you can just do like tr@tr.com, and that's not really anything.
Yeah, you can search it there.
I did the similar thing. I did e@mail.com.
Oh, so authenticating the email. So that's another good one, right? So authenticate the user when they create an account. Authenticate see Corey. User when they create account. So send email, and have confirmation link to click, right? So pretty common thing you see.
That wouldn't be something that's too difficult to do with App Engine's email package either.
So that'd be a good thing to add.
I mean, yes, it's more code, but it's not something that's hard. App Engine send email. It actually is very simple to use. You can create an HTML/plain text message and send it with like a single function, I think.
Just go have a way to protect against cross-site request forgery.
Cross-site request forgery, is that different than cross-site scripting? What is cross-site request
That's
forgery?
basically what it is.
Oh, cross-site scripting.
Hijacking users to send things into different places than the site that they're going to.
Hijacking users to send them to other places than the site they're going to. What the hell? Has that ever happened to me? So-
Basically, like, you think you're sending something to the trusted site that you're on, but you're
Yeah.
actually not.
Yeah. All right, so we've got cross-site scripting. And cross-site scripting is somebody could like put code into one of my forms or something, form boxes, submit it, and then that gets submitted. And how's that work? Right? So it would then run on the page when it came back. How's cross-site scripting work? How do you describe that? Because it's basically you escape any tags people put into forms, and you're preventing cross-site scripting, right? That's how you prevent it. But so I have a form. Somebody puts in a script tag, and then they hit submit, right? And then, well, it's JavaScript, so that's just going to execute on the client. But it doesn't execute on the server. So it comes back and it executes. I've just hacked myself. Like, how does cross-site scripting, like, how does that...
If you can put script tags in there, you could put a script tag that sends an AJAX request that does stuff. And since the AJAX request comes with cookies from whoever's sending
there you go.
Right.
it would be as if it was
Basically,
from
you
them.
protect your posts and your AJAX requests.
So,
Okay.
so the one way to fix that is the HTML template does escape all text to prevent you from being able to slip the script tag in. I'm not familiar enough with security to know of other ways or vulnerabilities.
Well, one way that people usually do it is to send something else with the AJAX, like a token that's checked on the server to see if they have that checksum, see if they match, so that it hasn't been. And if the page doesn't get the token, then it doesn't allow data to be sent.
I think OAuth, you can get it over OAuth. Some of that stuff uses it partially, where it's like the server creates some token or whatever that gets sent to the client, and the client, when the client sends back the form, you also have that token, and that's the way you know it's coming from this client and not from some other person who hijacked their cookie.
Yeah, there's a lot to know about in this field.
Security is very complex.
All right, any other thoughts? Obviously the basics are we need to get posts where people can post tweets, and then follow and see just everybody's tweets, like on a main page, and then see the tweets of people I'm following and see my own tweets, and then see the tweets of one specific person. So build in all that functionality. How many people found this? If you did the exercise, raise your hand. Like, let me see if I can improve it. How many people found it helpful? Like, let me go in and work it. Yeah. So, all right. I'll put it in Blackboard where you can submit your link so you get credit for it. So I'll add that in right now. In other news, the grant which funded the summer boot camp, they gave us $100,000, and the purpose was to do something for jobs in the economy, and then also to try to focus upon, education, right? So, and also K through 12, to bring in K through 12, meaning high school, right? And so that grant got refunded, so we have another $100,000. Yeah. So I don't know. I'm thinking summer boot camp too, and maybe we need to do a couple of weeks of security and bring in some people who are awesome in security. If we do summer boot camp too, how many people would you be able to attend, Shen? Would you, Daniel?
So wasn't that busy with like a
Yeah.
job.
Yeah. Well, just start in August, man. It's okay to take a couple months off. You don't have to go straight from school. Your skill set's pretty strong as it is, but we'd love to have you there. Anybody else? Summer that would interest you? I'm just kind of getting a sense of it. One more. So the other thing is if you have any other ideas. So one other idea I've been kicking around is that there's a new law from the government that educational institutions like Fresno City College or Fresno State can partner with private institutions like boot camp providers, so Hack Reactor or any of them, and then they could offer the boot camp at the school, and people attending it can pay for it with financial aid. So that's new. And so one thing I was thinking, it might be cool to try to institute a boot camp at City College and partner with some other boot camp and have that available for our community. I don't know, 5 months, and you learn pretty much everything. And we'd be bringing in the rock star talent to do the teaching. I think that'd be pretty amazing. Even if it's only 30 people every 5 months, well, that's great, right? Like there's 30 people who just went out and got a good job and didn't have skills before, but within 5 months, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, just totally focusing on HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and something server side, Node or Python or Go or Ruby or whatever it was. Most boot camps are Node, Python, or Go because those are the most popular, or Ruby. Sorry, Node, Python, or Ruby because those are the current popular ones. So that's like one idea I had. If anybody has any other ideas, like, oh, this would be really cool, to do something like this, that's money for the community. And I'm charged with helping spend it. Lucky me. We have to meet certain guidelines and stuff, but so let me know about that. All right, so it's on what's today? Today is Wednesday. So right?
Today's
Thursday. Whatever. Cool. It goes fast.
It's a day.
And so on Tuesday, I will have worked out more on the Twitter stuff and try to get that finished by Tuesday. So I don't know if I'm going to add in, the full, now we're a full bore production site where, I'm checking IP addresses and everything. Depends upon whether or not Daniel can come over and hang out. In which case, maybe we'll do that. But that's what I'm going to try to do for Tuesday. So Tuesday we'll finish off Twitter, and then Thursday next week we'll move into new topics and emails coming up and some other stuff. So, how many people are enjoying this class? Like just between you and me, not between student and professor, and you got to say what needs to be said, or, oh yeah, I'm enjoying it, done, whatever. Right, like how many people are like, this is good, I'm actually learning stuff that I dig it, and I'm getting stuff out of it. How many people, not so much? So if you're the not so much, hang out, because I would love to hear any feedback of what you might need for it to be different. I didn't see any hands, but just in case you're like, I'm not raising my hand, just hang out and say, I really wish this or that, because that's business, that's customer feedback. You provide a service, customers give you feedback, you modify the service you're providing. And too often teachers don't do that with students. I don't know why. I guess it's intimidating to their egos, like they need to have the answers. But if you're needing something that you're not getting, let me know, and I'll see if there's some way I could arrange for it to be gotten. One last thing I'll share with you is I think I talked about this website, Place a Vote, and they're lined up to get $10 million worth of funding. And if you look at the team, right, like this dude's from Fresno, Luke, Totally remember him when he was like just a high school kid teaching himself calculus and teaching himself to program. And then he went down to LA and worked for like creative arts management or whatever that big talent management company is. And he wrote an algorithm which values talent based upon, social metrics that would go out and get social metrics and figure out how much do we actually pay this actor, how popular are they in the marketplace, how much are they being tweeted about, how much are they being searched. So he totally created that algorithm, worked for them, made a ton of money, left, and then, I don't know what he did, took a little time off or something, but then he started Place a Vote, which is going to try to revolutionize democratic representation where it's more immediate, that, every representative in Congress, Senate, President is directly connected to every citizen. And on every issue, every citizen can just chime in on that issue, and the representative has immediate feedback on how does the public feel about this issue. And you could then proxy I'm not sure what the right word is, but there's one dude that I'll just give him my ballot because he totally researches this stuff, and he votes the way I would vote if I had the time to research the issues. So I just trust him, say, here, use my vote, right? And you can give your vote to people, so you get these little centers of influence in the community. So a pretty cool idea. But this guy right here, Joe Melton, is like, my old school friend from when I was young, and he's still also, he lives here in Fresno still. He's like, man, I love talking. He loves talking tech and loves talking ideas. He's not a programmer. He's more the business creative. He's the Steve Jobs. This is the Steve Wozniak. And, but he's not an asshole. And so he's like, I'd love to come in and talk with your students. So just a show of hands, if you want to have Job come in and talk a little bit about Place a Vote, and they're looking for talent. And so if they get that 10 million, they're looking for people. So he'd be a good guy to just sort of like, hey, nice to meet you. Let me get your email address. Let me give you mine. And but if you want to have him come in for like 30 minutes and talk about Place a Vote and running a business and their startup process and what they're doing, and then he'll also try to lasso a couple of you in to do some crazy idea, and so you could hear his crazy ideas. He'll be like, I totally want to build this thing. Who wants to help me? So we could have him come in. He said, I'd love to come talk to him if they, he didn't say if they want that. He just said, I'd love to come talk to him. But do you guys want that? Just show hands. Yeah, have Joe come in. Kind of interesting, right? All right, so I'll tell him, hey, if you got some time, man, come stop by. So we'll try to get him in at some point in the semester. All right, that's it. I'll see you guys next week.